Good evening. I hereby call to order the June 8th, 2015 meeting of Mayfield Heights City Council. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. DeJohn?
Here.
Mr. Mano?
Here.
Mr. Mercurio?
Here.
Mr. Monaco?
Here.
Mrs. Sabetta? Here. Mr. Sharia?
Here.
Mrs. Teresi?
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. We will now move on to the approval of our minutes from our May 28th council meeting. I hope everyone's had the opportunity to read them. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. Mano, seconded by Mr. DeJohn. Are there any suggested changes, amendments, or deletions? Mr. Mano.
Madam Chairman, it was pointed out to me by my colleague, Mrs. Sabetta, that I called the situation with the signs the wrong mattress store. I mean, we have so many, it's hard to distinguish. It's supposed to be Mattress Firm. I had said Mattress Matters. So, if we can just correct that little thing so we don't get sued or anything.
Okay. I guess. Well, we'll do it correctly. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended, changing Mattress Firm to Mattress Matters? No, Mattress Matters to Mattress Firm. Moved by Mr. Monaco, seconded by Mrs. Sabetta. All in favor of approval of the amended minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? The minutes have been approved as amended. Next, we will move on to correspondence and announcements. Does any member of council have any announcement or comment they'd like to make? Okay. Moving on, we will move to reports of officers, and we will begin with Mayor DeSico.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening. I hope everyone was able to get a good night's sleep after that nerve-wracking, nail-biting Cavs victory last night. I don't know how much more of that I could take. I would like to welcome Mary Beth Mack, Community Outreach Coordinator for Hillcrest Hospital, who is in our audience this evening. Certainly most of you already know her, as she's been an active supporter of our community through her work at Hillcrest Hospital. The Chief of Government Relations has asked her and others in her position to attend meetings where their hospitals are located to keep up to date on happenings in the community. Mary Beth, we're glad to have you here. The city is looking into all options for refuse collection, including the benefits of returning to curbside recycling. We're exploring the automated route, which includes curbside recycling. Consideration is being given to maintaining a smaller recycling center for residents of multi-tenant housing, even if curbside recycling is returned at single-family dwellings. I believe it is important to continue recycling services for those residents, and discussions currently are in council committee. The Cleveland Water Department will begin construction soon on Mayland Avenue to reline the existing water line with a protective coating. This will improve the water pressure in that area. Work hours will be Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Residents will be made aware by a letter when the project will begin and what they can expect throughout the project. And summer programs, I should say, will be in full swing. And our Parks and Rec Director, Sean Ward, is here, and I'm sure he's going to have some information for us a little later in the meeting. So we hope to see everyone enjoying the park and all the programs this summer. And finally, I'd like to extend well wishes to Finance Director Bob Tribby for a speedy recovery. To the Mayfield High School class of 2015, including my daughter Gianna, who graduated Saturday, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Go Cavs. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any questions or comments? Mr. Mano.
One question. I see the doors are open, temperature is rising. What happened?
I can't tell you at this moment because, well, the last time we talked, to Gardner Train, they were going to have the air conditioning remotely turned on a couple hours before the meeting. So I'm not sure if something happened, maybe it needs to be rebooted, or I'm not sure what happened tonight, but I'll check into it.
Would it help if my cousin Vinny paid him a visit?
Moose and Rocco?
Any other questions for the mayor? Okay, we will move on to report from Director of Law, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have no report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Are there any questions for Mr. Murphy? We would move on to a report from Director of Finance, but Mr. Tribby is not here. Mayor, do you have anything to report from the Finance Department?
No, nothing this evening.
Okay. Next, we will move on to reports of committees, commissions, and boards, and we will begin with the Building Committee. Mr. Mano.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I only have a couple of questions. Mayor, when we spoke last council meeting about the thing at Mattress Matters, I told you or Mattress Firm, I'm sorry. I talked to the chief. Did you have a chance to review those logs to find out if indeed they did go there to tell them to remove those signs?
Madam President?
Mayor.
Yes, the guys did go there.
Okay.
The police did go there, yes.
But they never took the signs down.
Well, no, they didn't. The management there did not. You're correct. So I'm talking to the chief about what do we do next, and he's kind of wary of how far we can go. So Mr. Murphy and myself and the chief are going to get together and see what exactly we can do, and then we'll take it from there, and then we'll see if we need to do anything further. There was one thing that you had mentioned about if there was a permit pulled for that. There is no provision in our ordinances for that, for a permit for that type of, but for that type of advertising, I should say. And maybe one thing we want to consider is, do we want to require it and maybe limit it to like once or twice a year, so that way that's a way to monitor it, and businesses would actually know they're not allowed to do it unless they get a permit. That's just a thought.
Okay. Was there any other news on Salon Loft?
No, they are, we're working with them.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Mano? Okay, we will move on to Finance and Audit Committee. Mr. Mercurio.
Thank you, Madam President. I have no report tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mercurio. Are there any questions for Mr. Mercurio? We will move on to the Legislative Committee. Mr. Monaco.
Thank you, Madam President. On the agenda tonight, we have an ordinance that will address the changes that we are proposing to the weed and grass ordinance. I will address it when it comes up on the agenda later on.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Monaco? Okay, we will move on to Public Works and Services. Mr. Sharia.
Thank you. Over the past couple of weeks, the Service Department has stayed busy catching up on all of their projects, and that includes working on many sidewalk blocks, which includes sections of Psalm Center and in front of Hillcrest Hospital. The Parks and Night crew have been working, planting trees, and the last count was at least 15 trees. And they've repaired nearly 50 tree lawns, and they've planted flowers most everywhere. It's almost looking like a funeral home, you know? Yeah, I just thought I'd throw that in.
You could look to your right too, so.
Oh, sorry about that, Mr. By the way, they're building a new place out in Chesterland. I saw that the other day.
A shameless plug, yes.
Okay. And they've started replacing some of those dugout benches at the baseball fields on Marsall. And the crews have been getting ready and working to get the pool ready. and they're also getting ready for Unity Days like all of us are. And on Thursday, we have a Public Works and Service Committee meeting, assuming we're going to get details updated on rubbish and recycling. I want to thank you, and again, using a television sign-off, I'd like to say thank you this time for your time. Until next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sharia. Are there questions for Mr. Sharia? I have one, Mr. Sharia.
Oh, my God.
I hope it's not too difficult. The trees, you mentioned 15 trees were planted. Were those planted on individual residences? Is that where they were planted?
Where else would they plant them?
Well, I didn't know if they plant them on our
No,
city
on
tree lawn.
lawns, on tree lawns.
But at each home, but not on
Those
Mayfield
that have
Road
yeah,
and
those that
commercial
have
establishments.
requested trees and things like that,
Okay.
okay?
I had a thought that I'd like to have some sort of program where we plant trees on the tree lawns on Mayfield Road. Since
Are
we're-
there any more questions?
I'll discuss my my thoughts with the mayor on the tree program. Thank you.
Please do.
Mayor.
Can we have the conversation? You just turn your mic off, that's okay. No, I'm just kidding. We tried that. Were you on council when we did the
I
trees?
was. I proposed it
Yeah,
last time
remember?
when
And
Mayor
those trees
Casabli
are
was here.
extremely hard to keep alive. So, I know a lot of them have gone, a lot of them have died. So keeping those, with the salt and the,
You're talking about the ones that are in our planters.
no,
Oh, you're just
talking about the ones,
right
yeah.
on the- right
Yeah,
on the
that
road.
was,
Oh.
it was done as, on Lander. A lot of them were put in there, Lander and Mayfield, kind of as the gateway, one of the gateways to the city, and they didn't do too well. So, I mean, they're just extremely hard to keep alive on that tree lawn, so,
I just thought the green would add something to driving down Mayfield Road and kind of block everyone's, parking lot, and maybe there was some type of a program where some of the retailers would be interested in doing something to beautify their property, as well as the city doing something.
Could
So
be.
it was a thought.
could be in the future plans.
Okay, thanks. I think we got a grant last time, if I'm not
Yeah, we
mistaken.
did, yes.
We got a grant
Yep.
for my last idea to put trees on Mayfield Road. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to Recreation and Parks Committee, Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Wednesday, June 10th, the Draga Pool opens and pre-day camp from June 10th through June 12th. June 15th, day camp opens for summer sessions. The first concert in the park is Wednesday, June 10th, 7 to 9 at the Oakville Park. Six-string cowboy will be appearing. This is a date change due to the Cavs game. Movie at dusk is Free Birds. Concessions will be sold. All movies are weather permitting and free to the public. Parks and Recreation is getting ready for Unity Days, kicking it off on Friday, June 26th with the Gold Resident Luncheon. Great food, bocce, music, entertainment, midday rides, fireworks. Saturday, June 27th, City Council members will be serving popcorn from 7 to 9. On Sunday, June 28th, the Mayfield 5K Run for Life and the 1 Mile Kids Run. The parade steps off at 1 p.m., followed by Italian Day and much more. Pre-sale wristbands are available again this year. Please check the city website for each day's activity schedules. An ordinance is on the agenda tonight. We will address it when it comes up. The next Park and Recreation meeting is Tuesday, June 23rd, 7 p.m., here in council chambers. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta. Are there questions for Mrs. Sabetta? Mayor?
Madam President, if, not a question, this might be a good time to bring up Parks and Rec Director Sean Ward to just change a little information that you had. That's all. update the information, I'm sorry.
All right, so there's no water in our pool. We're supposed to
Hard
open.
to swim.
We're supposed to open on Wednesday, so, the contractors are trying to repair the pool, and they're taking longer than we anticipated they would take, so, we are not gonna be able to open on Wednesday. So, I've talked with Mayfield Village, and they're willing to accept our pass holders. So, we can buy some time in hopes that we can open on Monday. So, just, when you're dealing with contractors that aren't your people, you gotta, deal with when they can get there, and unfortunately, they haven't done the job as quick as we would have liked, so. That's the latest on the pool.
Mayor?
Thank you. It just speaks to the condition of our pool. Every year we go through this, and somehow we are blessed with getting it open on time. But this year we ran into a few more problems than we anticipated. So unfortunately, we're gonna shoot for Monday.
Sean, how old is our pool?
Built in '58.
It was
I
built
think
in
this is, I think this is
1958.
is this the 50, I think this is the 58th year? No, I'm sorry, 56th year. 7? But she's in the finance.
You're looking
department.
at Lisa like she knows.
57, that's,
You want me to call Bob? No, it's old. It was 50, it's right, I was gonna say 56, 58, it's somewhere right around there, 54, somewhere in that area.
every year seems to be a little bit harder than the previous to get it up and running. So,
Thanks, Sean. Mr. DeJohn?
Mr. Ward, are these contractors we've used before?
we have, yes, we have.
Are they the problem, or?
Well, I mean, this is pool season, and
Throw 'em
so.
under the bus.
So they are, trying to open up many pools and, are spread thin. And, I think that and the fact that the job is just taking longer than maybe they originally thought.
So there's pools, they're their specialty, in other words?
That's their specialty, yes. So they're from the Akron area, and they do pools all around the area. We're just one of many.
Is the notice on our website that the pool is going to be closed? Has that already been,
This is kind of hot off the presses, so,
okay?
we'll get that up on the website tomorrow morning and let people know, and let them know that if they've gotten a pass, if they purchased a pass already, they can go to the village. If they haven't purchased a pass, they can pay the $5 fee to enter there, in hopes that we can open on Monday.
Mr. DeJohn?
Mr. Ward, how optimistic are you that we're gonna open up on Monday?
Well, I tried to call the guy today, and he didn't answer his phone. It was in his truck, so, I don't know. I don't know if I can give you a good answer.
Thank you.
Mr. Monaco?
Mr. Ward, other than being old, what is the issue with the pool at this point?
There's a lot of issues. In '99, we put a liner in. It had a 10-year warranty, and it's still in. It has a leak, and they're gonna that's one of the things that they're gonna do. They're gonna repair that leak. But, so we've far outlived the warranty of the liner, but behind the liner is bad concrete. That's where the problem is. And so, I mean, it's 57 years old, it's crumbling, it's in places, so
Have you tried contacting other contractors, like maybe Highland Pool or anybody local who could probably help you out?
we've dealt for many years with, the Whitmer Pool Company, and that was our, pool service provider, and then they went out of business. And one of their guys that has worked with them for many years, who knows our pool inside and out, went to work for Aquapool. So we followed them, you know, and have used them, but we certainly can look for other pool companies.
Thank you, Sean. Next, we will move on to the Safety and Transportation Committee. Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to inform the council that we do have a committee meeting on Wednesday, June the 10th at 5:30 p.m. We'll be discussing our draft legislation for our seatbelt ordinance and our texting while driving ordinance. This was a request from the police department a month or two back that they'd like to see this become a primary offense for both of these, seatbelt and texting while driving. We'll be discussing that on Wednesday night. Thank you, Madam President.
Question, Mr. Mano.
Bob, do you think we can get this thing done before we recess? I know they're really anxious to get this thing on the books so they can start working it.
Let's wait until we meet with everybody on Wednesday night, and we'll see.
I was very impressed with the comments at the Block Watch meeting last Tuesday regarding all of the issues that all of the police departments are having with the, you know, the drug abuse and the drug users, and I thought Mr. Rocco did a terrific job. And his one comment that really stuck with me was that the drug dealers don't want to come to Mayfield Heights because they know how tough our police department is. I thought that was terrific. I'm sure makes the residents feel much safer. So next we'll move on to Board of Zoning Appeals, Mr. Mercurio.
Thank you, Madam President. We have a meeting tomorrow night at 7:30 right here in council chambers.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Mercurio? We'll move on to the Commission on Aging, and that is my commission. We met on June 2nd, and the volunteers of CPA were recognized at a luncheon at the end of May, where 105 people were in attendance. The Community Partnership on Aging has been involved in current meetings with several state representatives to discuss the funding of senior services. And the purpose of those meetings is to address the fact that the population of senior adults has increased while the government funding has been cut. So we'll be anxious to hear back from our CPA group on how that goes. The annual Gold Resident Luncheon will be held Friday, June 26th at 11 a.m. at Ross C. John Community Building, and I understand there are 29 new Gold Resident applications this year. The Seniors Farmers Market will begin on July 1st, and instructions on how to access the coupons will be included in the Community Partnership on Aging newsletter. And the Commission on Aging has put together the schedule for their social dances for the remainder of the year. The first one will be August 22nd, the next one will be September 26th, and the third one will be December 5th. The Commission on Aging will be on recess until September 1st, where we will meet again here in council chambers at 5 p.m. And that concludes my report. Any questions on the Commission on Aging? Okay, we'll move on to our Planning Commission, and that is Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you, Madam President. Due to a lack of an agenda, we did not meet, so I do not have a report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. DeJohn? Next, we'll move on to the Mayfield Union Cemetery. Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam President. The lilac tree was planted in memory of John Barney at no cost to the Garden Club. Roger Remnick continues to help maintain the cemetery, and Mayfield Village Service Department is cutting the grass. Flags for Memorial Day were placed on every gravesite, and they will be removed shortly. The Garden Club members planted geraniums at the flagpole and outside in the flower bed, and a bill will be submitted. An annual meeting is still yet to be planned. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mrs. Sabetta? We will move on to the ad hoc committee. Mr. Mano.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We have a meeting tomorrow evening here at 6 o'clock. Everybody that was contacted to be there will be there with the exception of Mr. Miller. He's out of town. Hopefully, we can give Mr. Majewski everything that we've put together, and he can take that and start working on those two ordinances. Be a good idea for committee members to bring their codifieds or take the sections out pertaining to the fences and signs so that we have reference points if we need them. So we'll be here tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Mano? Okay, next we'll move on to the public portion. Pursuant to section 121.02, section 8H of the codified ordinance, each person will be allotted 5 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes for the entire public portion. Although this is not a time for public debate, it is a time for you to address council with your concerns. Please note that there will be no personal attacks allowed. Also, if you are here in connection with an item on the agenda, this is your opportunity to come forward and speak. If you would like to be heard this evening, please raise your hand and be recognized. Approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. It is now 7:28 and we will open the public portion. Is there anyone who would like to be heard? Okay. It is still 7:28 and we will close the public portion. We will now move on to resolutions, and we will begin with resolution 2015-33. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Resolution number 2015-33, a resolution confirming the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in denying to Ace Lighting Service on behalf of Sharona Properties, 1413 Golden Gate Boulevard, a variance to place a second ground sign at the rear access drive on the parcel. Cuyahoga County permanent parcel number 862-06-073. Second reading.
Do I have a motion to place resolution 2015-33 on second reading?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Mercurio, seconded by Mr. Mano. Mr. Murphy?
Just to update council, after the last meeting, I transmitted a letter to L. Brian Carr, who had indicated he is representing Sharona Properties, and I indicated that council had put this legislation on first reading and anticipated it would be put on second reading this evening and voted upon by council on third reading at the second meeting in June. And if he wanted a different timetable, then I asked him to contact me, and since that time I haven't heard from him, so it would be proper to place it on second reading, and I will again communicate with him and indicate that council expects to see him at the second meeting in June if he wants to excuse me, make a presentation regarding this appeal.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Roll call on the motion to place on second reading.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes?
Mr. Monaco?
Abstain.
And the reason, please?
Howard Sonestein, who I believe is one of the owners of this property, helped me with my finance during my election.
Okay.
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mrs. Tracy?
Yes. Resolution 2015-33 has been placed on second reading. We will now move on to ordinances, and we'll begin with 2015-18. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ordinance number 2015-18, an ordinance partially suspending the rules and regulations regarding the sale, possession, and consumption of alcohol at the Mayfield Heights Park during Mayfield Heights Unity Days for 2015 and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mr. DeJohn, seconded by Mr. Monaco. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes,
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. Mercurio, seconded by Mr. Mano. This ordinance is, will be suspending the rules in order to have alcohol for our Unity Days, which last year was the first year that we had alcohol in the park. So our Unity Days are June 26, 27, and 28. And just for those 3 days, alcohol will be sold and consumed in our park system. Mr. Monaco?
Just out of curiosity, how successful was it last year, and how profitable it was for the city to do this?
Mayor, do you have the answer for that? Or Ms.
Well, I think more importantly, there were no problems. We had the chance to offer everyone in the community something that maybe they never had before. It wasn't meant to be a wildly profitable endeavor, but we did make money on it. But I think most importantly was that there was no problems from it.
Thank you.
Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
yes,
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Ordinance 2015-18 has been approved. Ordinance number 2015-19, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ordinance number 2015-19, an ordinance amending section 917.14 of the codified ordinances of the city with regard to the removal of weeds by owners. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano, seconded by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
yes,
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. Monaco, seconded by Mr. Sharia. Mr. Monaco, would you like to add something or discussion to this?
Yes, we had some issues with some landlords, especially, and some property owners who neglected to cut their grass and take care of the property. By looking at the ordinance, it seemed like it was kind of in some areas were vague, and it was too hard to enforce. So we decided to make some changes. The changes that we made basically are the following. Number one, we changed the height from 8 inches to 7 inches, which is really not substantial. We changed the notice from 5 days to cut the grass to 2 days. We changed the way we notify the offenders. Now we can post a notice on the property, on a building or on a land somewhere, and their notice will suffice. We also changed the ordinance so that only one notice will be served upon the offender. Any successive situation where the grass is not cut, the service department can cut it and no additional notice need to be sent out. The cost to be paid was also revised. Right now, for the residential property, the first hour is $200 and $100 each additional hour after that. On a commercial property, would be $300 the first hour and $200 every following hours. And with that, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Monaco. Are there questions for Mr. Monaco? Any other discussion before we go for a vote? Thank you, Mr. Monaco. Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes,
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Ordinance 2015-19 has been approved. We'll move on to ordinance 2015-20. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ordinance number 2015-20, an ordinance amending section 917.16 of the codified ordinances of the city with regard to the removal of weeds by owners. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mr. Mercurio, seconded by Mr. Mano. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mrs. Sabetta?
yes,
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, seconded by Mr. Monaco. Again, Mr. Monaco, and would you like to add anything else since this pertains to the weeds and the cost involved?
Thank you. I think I covered everything with the first statement.
Okay. Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
yes,
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Ordinance 2015-20 has been approved. We'll move on to motions. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Motion to advertise for rock salt bids.
Now, that's just terrible when we're planting flowers. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. DeJohn, seconded by Mrs. Sabetta. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion has been carried. We will next move on to new business or comments from council. Does anyone have anything they would like to add this evening? Okay. Just want to remind everyone that we have a council meeting June 22nd, and then we will be on summer recess, and our meeting in July, if we have the need for a meeting, will be July 20th. Do I have a motion? Mr. Monaco?
I'd just like to add that the table item that's just the, below the adjournment, that needs to be taken out because it was the old, section that we amended and defeated.
Will you make a motion to remove it?
I will make a motion to remove it.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Mr. Mercurio. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
aye,
The tabled item, ordinance 2015-7. Mr. Murphy?
At this point, it has been read 3 times and then placed on the table, so it could either be adopted, which I would not suggest, since the other 2 ordinances were adopted that take their place. So council can either withdraw that, and I believe Mr. Monaco sponsored this, so if you wanted to withdraw it, you could so indicate, or council could vote on it, and I would suggest that it be voted down. So either or.
I will ask to, withdraw the table item, from the table.
Okay, so now we can do a first motion.
No, now he's withdrawn it.
Okay, so
If there's no objection.
I'll second it.
Second.
second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
aye,
Thanks, Mr. Murphy. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Mr. Mercurio, seconded by Mr. Sharia. All in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
That motion has been approved. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.